welcome to episode 29 of the Valley Sports Talk podcast. We haven't said that in a while.
It's been a hot minute.
It's been a minute. I don't remember when it was. I think it was sometime October.
Probably a month ago, 2 months ago.
A month or two ago. But yeah, we're back. We don't really have an excuse as to why we weren't, other than in December exams came and then we came home for Christmas.
I got COVID.
Brandon got COVID. So we've been away for a bit. But we felt like this is a great time to come back as the NFL season just wrapped up. So that is what this episode is going to be based on. We're going to be going over, first we're going to have a couple hot takes from the NFL season. Then we're going to go into some NFL awards for all the awards who we think should win the awards this year. Our fantasy season wrapped up. He beat me in the final by 4 points.
Let's go.
Out of 10 teams. So we're gonna go over our fantasy awards for the season, even though it should be every league's fantasy awards. And then for the final segment to wrap it up, we're gonna go for our NFL Round 1 playoff predictions for the wild card. So getting that started, we're gonna go right into our hot takes. I don't know how many did you get?
2.
I have 2 as well, so that's perfect.
Yeah, sweet.
Go ahead, you can go ahead first.
I'll start it off. Okay, I think this is kind of a take to get the fans back on our side because we've been gone so long. So I figured what would a lot of people have to agree with, so I guess it's not a hot take, but I think the Cowboys are nowhere near as good as their record suggests. I think Dak had a great season. Their offense is great, obviously, but I think Diggs is a little overrated, in my opinion. His picks make a lot of people that don't watch him, make him think that he's really good. But if you actually watch those games, you'll know because he is aggressive and goes for those picks, big plays are able to be had against him. You see a lot of people be able to throw over the top on him and make some big plays. So I don't think their defense is as good as the numbers might show. And really, if their run game isn't going, if Zeke and Pollard aren't going, their team struggles a lot to win games. I know when they average 100 rushing yards, I don't think they've been beaten this year. So it's all about their run game. Obviously, they got good weapons on offense, but they're a little hurt going into the playoffs, and I don't think they're going to win a playoff game. Spoiler.
My hot take that I didn't even have down, but Brandon just kind of reminded me of, is like going back to the. I didn't have this written down. This is an extra one that I had.
Nice.
I think that Tony Pollard is a better running back than Zeke.
I agree.
I think
so too.
I think he's a better running back. I think Zeke's a bit overrated right now. But going into my first one, this kind of spoils who this is for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I think that Creed Humphrey should be the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's a center for the Kansas City Chiefs. He had the best Pro Football Focus grade against centers, which basically just the PFF grade is the contribution to production on a given play. So basically means that 90% of the time on a play, Creed Humphrey had very good production of the play. He was second in total snaps, 7th in penalties taken, and tied for 23rd with only 1 sack given up. I think he was the best center in football this year, but the Offensive Rookie of the Year usually doesn't go to an offensive lineman, especially not one that has played this good. It goes to a more flashy player, like a quarterback or receiver, depending on who me or Brandon have for our thing. But I believe that Creed Humphrey should be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's not who I picked, because I picked who I think is going to win it, but I think he should be the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
My next hot take, which also spoils our playoff predictions, sort of, is that I think the San Francisco 49ers are the best team in the best division in football. In my opinion, I think they were injured to start the year, but now that Garoppolo's back, you got Deebo Samuel, who's turned it into another gear. Their running backs are starting to get a little healthy again. I think San Francisco is a team you do not want to play in the playoffs, and I think, like my hot take says, I think they're better than the Cardinals and the Rams at this current moment.
My second hot take is that Justin Herbert is already a top 5 quarterback in the league. This year he was second in pass attempts, second in passing yards, third in passing touchdowns, with a 90.1 Pro Football Focus grade, which was third best behind for QBs, only being behind Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. He almost led to the Chargers to a playoff spot after being very injured throughout the whole year. And he probably would have led his team to a playoff spot if his coach didn't call a timeout with 20-some seconds left in the game. Because then they might have tied and both of them would have went to the playoffs. But just the way he was able to, in that game in general, with like 5 minutes left, they were down 2 touchdowns, and on that last drive, they converted 3 fourth downs. One was like a 4th and 30 for the touchdown. It just proves that he's a real guy in this league, and I think already that you could argue he's a top 5 quarterback.
So I think next we are going to move to our NFL awards for this past season. So we're going to start off with Coach of the Year. My Coach of the Year is Zach Taylor, coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, he led them to a 10-7 record, I believe. Yes, they were 10-7. At the start of the season, when people were discussing who was going to win this division, I think all 3 teams were in conversation except for the Bengals. I mean, there were a lot of injuries to all the teams in that division. They were still, it's still a very feisty division, a hard division to come out with. They had some close games even, like the game against the Packers, and a couple other games like that. They lost by 3 to the Dolphins earlier in the year too, and 3 to Chicago as well. So they're a very good team, and I think they can make some noise in the playoffs for sure.
I also have Zach Taylor as my Coach of the Year. The Bengals had the 7th best Pro Football Focus grade. If you haven't been able to tell by now, I based a lot of my predictions off Pro Football Focus grades. Like what Brandon said, he led them to an AFC North title. A lot of people, I saw them having around 5 wins this come for their predictions, and they come out and they double that with 10, having both a above 500 home and away record. I don't think anybody really saw them making the playoffs or even winning this division this year, with both the Browns and Ravens having down years. And I believe that this is why he should be the Coach of the Year.
Yeah, for sure. Comeback Player of the Year for me personally is Dak Prescott. Again, I was just harping on their team, but obviously he is a big part of the reason they were doing so good.
I love this.
I don't think so.
Hold on, I'm just pulling up his stats here. Dak Prescott, he threw for jeez, he got me off guard. Dak Prescott obviously threw for 4,500 yards on an elite offense. A lot of things obviously on that team happened because of them. You can see their record from last year to this year, just how important he is to a team like this. And although I have San Fran beating them, the Cowboys are a team that any given night could win any single game, and it's definitely because of him. So,
I think this award was basically down to 3 players, being Dak, like Brandon said, Joe Burrow, and the guy I picked, which is Nick Bosa, edge rusher for the 49ers. Last year he tore the ACL, obviously in the second game of the year, and the Niners defense was pretty atrocious for the rest of the year. This year he comes back. He has 16 sacks in 17 games. Leads them to a playoff spot. He's the leader on that defense with Fred Warner. Coming off an ACL tear, getting 16 sacks the next year is pretty impressive in general. Getting 16 sacks is impressive in general, and doing it off a torn ACL, I think, is even more impressive. But yeah, it's a toss-up between any of those 3 players that I named before.
What's next?
Yeah, offensive
player of the year. My offensive player of the year is Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. Had 145 catches on the season for 1,947 yards, adding 16 touchdowns to that total. Obviously a monster season. He didn't break the record though, did he? No. So, but still, like, obviously coming second. Even, I mean, people say the extra game, but I mean, you still, amazing players could play 17 games and not, like, he's an above average, obviously. He's people could say it's Matt Stafford, but he always finds a way to get open. His footwork's great. He's a big body, and he's hard to defend, obviously. And I think he's my offensive player of the year.
My offensive player of the year is going to be Jonathan Taylor, running back for the Indianapolis Colts. 332 rushing attempts for 1,811 yards for 5.5 yards per attempt, which is pretty ridiculous. He's basically getting just over a first down, half of a first down every time he touches the ball. So that's setting yourself up to get 5 yards on 2 plays is pretty good. 18 touchdowns on the year. Coming off of last year's season, I'm pretty sure he was about 4th in the league. He led the league in rushing this year. He kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody really had him breaking out this big, and all of a sudden he came in, and you could argue that he is a top 3 running back just off this year.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, Jonathan Taylor.
Defensive player of the year, I have TJ Watt, tying the sack record.
And one less game.
And one less
he only
game.
played 15.
He missed some time, and on a pretty, no offense, boring Pittsburgh team that I know personally. The only reason I was tuning into Pittsburgh games was to watch him play, because you definitely aren't tuning in to watch that offense.
I'm watching Najee.
I guess you were watching Najee for fantasy, but TJ Watt's such a revolutionary player. He's getting double team, triple team. People know he's coming for the quarterback, and he still gets there. There's nothing people can do. He's so smart. If he sees the triple team, he'll hang back and get his hand up in the way of the balls that are being thrown. He's just an all-star level talent, and he's my defensive player of the year.
Yeah, he's also my defensive player of the year. I'm pretty sure there's no other really option for this. If you say somebody else, then you don't really watch football. Playing 15 games, having 22.5 sacks is pretty ridiculous. Also forcing 5 fumbles. In my opinion, he kind of got robbed of the award the last 2 years. I think he should have won it over Aaron Donald last year, and he could have argued he should have won it over. I don't remember who won it the year before. I don't remember the year before. But then he just was even more motivated to come out and win it this year. So yeah, TJ Watt, if you don't have him as your decoy of the year, do you even watch football? No.
Offensive rookie of the year, I think it's between Mac Jones and Jamar Chase, but personally, I like entertainment, and although Mac Jones had a great year, he's not very entertaining to watch, so I'm going to give it to Jamar Chase just because, like I said, he's so entertaining to watch. He makes such big plays. I know against Kansas City there was a couple catches there where it just looked like he was going to get a first down, but then he ran all the way for a touchdown. He makes so many plays out of nothing. Just at such a young age already, he's drawing in such big defensive names on him. He can break out at any play, and he's definitely one of the main reasons Joe Burrow had such a good season and the Bengals in general had such a good season.
Yeah, I agree. I also have Jamar Chase. At the start of the year, he really had a couple drop issues in a couple games, and people are starting to say, "Oh, he's a bust." Him and Burrow don't have the connection. They weren't. They should have taken a tackle. In reality, I still probably think they should have taken a tackle.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow got smoked in the pocket still.
Yeah.
But yeah, my offensive player of the year is also Jamar Chase. I believe he was top 7 or so, maybe even he might even been top 5 in receiving yards.
I think he was. I think he was 4th.
He had a couple games with more than 1 touchdown, especially that last game against Kansas City. He had
gross.
He had 3 touchdowns, 200 plus receiving yards. I think that was the most fantasy points all year. He had about 50.52. I think he had, or something like that.
It was ridiculous.
He had the 28th best PFF grade. So he's in the top 30 for PFF, is pretty good. And yeah, he's definitely, as Brandon said, he's more electrifying than Mac Jones. Nothing against Mac Jones, who led his team to the playoffs in his rookie year. But he just like that quarterback just goes out there and gets the job done, where Jamar Chase can sort of more entertaining to watch, as Brandon said.
My defensive rookie of the year, and also
no debate about who this
yeah,
is.
and also somebody I feel like who should get defensive player of the year votes in general is Micah Pierson's. He was so good this year. We were talking earlier about who the biggest names on the Dallas defense this year was, and a lot of people would say Diggs, but honestly, I think it's Micah Parsons. He was so good at everything he did this year. I watched him run out and tackle receivers. I watched him block passes. I watched him get to the quarterback. There's not a whole lot this guy doesn't do. And again, like Noah's saying, if he's not your rookie defensive player of the year, I don't know who you're picking.
Yeah, mine is also going to be Micah Parsons, if I can bring up his stats here quick.
This is gross.
That's not him.
That's Mike Noor.
Who is
Micah
this?
Noor.
He's a punter.
Micah Noor.
Micah Parsons had 64 solo tackles, 3 forced fumbles, but the really big number that jumped off the page for me is he had 13 sacks he's listed as an interior linebacker. But he was asked in an interview what really plays. He plays edge. He just says he just plays football, which
plays
is
everything.
exactly what he does. He had the top grade among interior linebackers at 88.5 for Pro Football Focus. He was all over the ball. I don't know if he had any INTs.
I don't think so.
No, he had 0 INTs, but that's okay. We don't really care about that. He had 2 pass defended all year. Combined tackles, he was out there a lot of assists on tackles, and his percentage of available snaps was anywhere from 80 to 100% all year. So he was on the field every game, healthy, and getting involved in every single play. So Micah Parsons is the defensive rookie of the year.
Last but not least, we have the NFL MVP, which is definitely down between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, which is crazy because they're like 2 of the oldest quarterbacks in the league, and they're still showing. There's no quitting these two. Honestly, I'm fine with either or. I'm a Green Bay fan, so a little bit of bias here. I'm going Aaron Rodgers, just on the fact he threw 37 interceptions. 37. That's not MVP numbers. He threw 37 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions all season is a ridiculous number, especially when 2 of his interceptions came in the first game, which was definitely his only bad game of the season, was the first one against the Saints.
Oh yeah, forever.
Other than that, if you take that game out, he's 15 games, 37 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season, which is crazy. He's so consistent. His completion percentage is through the roof. His QBR rating is great, as always. Led the league 112, which is just crazy. That's what happens when you don't throw interceptions. The team had the best record in the NFL, which I think is a big factor towards MVP, although they had the same amount of wins as Tampa, or 1 more, so I can see why you'd pick Tom Brady, but for me it's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, so I'm going to go, just to make things interesting, I'm going to go against B-Well. My NFL MVP is Tom Brady. The man's 44 years, and first of all, I'm not a Tom Brady fan at all. Man's 44 years old, led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns, through 12 interceptions with a 67.5 percentage of passes completed. His splits, what am I trying to find here?
You're working on it.
I don't know what I was looking at.
We're rusty, guys. It's been a while.
It's been a while. We are very rusty.
We're used to having Braden while we search up these stats.
Yeah, Brady can just talk about something. He had that's where I was going. He had the top Pro Football Focus percentage at 92%, which was first among all quarterbacks. And yeah, I mean, he's just, even that game against the Jets were down. He had no weapons because AB had his temper tantrum. Mike Evans was hurt. He still found a way with no timeouts, 43 seconds left in the game, to come down and win the game. So for me, just showing that he can come out and do it on a day-to-day basis at 44, and he shows no signs of slowing down whatsoever. Like Brand said, it's a toss-up between these two. I'm fine with either because they're both rightfully deserving. But I'm going to make it interesting and go against Brandon with Tom Brady.
It's totally fine. So yeah, let us know what you guys think of the NFL predictions. We're going to move on to our fantasy league, which I took the dub on against Noah. I finished the season, I finished 10-4, and you finished 6-8.
6-8.
And he made it to the finals.
16, I made it to the finals. I told you, my team underperformed all year.
Your team definitely underperformed. But it came to play in the playoffs, and that's all that matters. And to only win by 4 points is a great
If
find.
Claypool caught one more catch for 10 yards, I'd beat you.
For sure.
Freaking Claypool.
It was close. Claypool, man.
If I started Boston Scott, I would have beat you. He had 24 on my bench.
That'll happen. So yeah, we're gonna talk about fantasy for a little bit before we get back into the NFL playoffs. But we just wanted to get our fantasy in there just so we can brag a little bit because we were the top two. So it shows we know our stuff a little bit. So we're gonna start off with just a straight up fantasy player of the year. Personally, mine's Jonathan Taylor, which is upsetting because the news of at the start of the year was that the backfield's crowded. He doesn't catch passes, and then he comes out and does this.
And Brandon trades him before the season even starts.
I traded him for Keenan Allen straight up because I heard of all this news. But hey, I still want it. Doesn't matter.
That's fair. Very fair.
Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he put up 10 points every single week, but weeks 2 and 3. And 10 is just an understatement. He had so many 20, he had a few 30s. He was so consistent. He was definitely the number one running back of the season. Maybe if Derrick Henry didn't get hurt, you have a close one there, but Derrick Henry doesn't catch the ball as much as Jonathan Taylor does. So he's definitely my fantasy player of the year. I'm just happy he wasn't in the finals against me.
Yeah, I just have mine's also Jonathan Taylor. I have a couple stats that Brandon doesn't have that I'll add in. He had 333 total points, which came out to 19.6 average per game.
Disgusting.
He was obviously the first running back, but the thing that really jumped off the page is that he was the 7th total for fantasy points, and the 6 above him were all quarterbacks. So he's the first really out of flex player that you would say, and even then he still beat every team has 32 quarterbacks, so he still beat 80% of the league in 80% of the quarterbacks in fantasy points. So yeah, the other guy I really considered was maybe Cooper Kupp.
That's what I was thinking.
And maybe you could even put Josh Allen in there because he was the first for quarterbacks. But really, you can get any quarterback those touchdowns. You can really throw in there. So Jonathan Taylor, MVP.
My surprise player of the year has to be, again, Jamar Chase. We've already talked a bunch about him. The reason he was my surprise player of the year was because, I mean, he was drafted high in our league just because of Dynasty, but I know in regular one-year fantasy leagues he wasn't drafted very high. And all the talk before season was that he's got dropping problems, as Noah said before. That also that receiving room is very good with Boyd and Higgins, and they got a good receiving core, so people didn't know how Jamar Chase was going to fit in, especially with his dropping problem, and he was unbelievable, especially through the end of the season. So he's my surprise player of the year.
I was down between two, one being Deebo Samuel and two being James Conner. Deebo Samuel.
I was thinking James Conner.
263 total points, 16.4 average, second among wide receivers. But he was really a wide receiver running back. He scored. Yeah. He had the most rushing touchdowns on his team, having a lot of really deep running back room in San Fran with people like Elijah Mitchell, Raheem Mostert before he got hurt, Jermichael Hasty. There's another guy I'm missing from that running back room. They just
had the guy I had for a while, Jeff Wilson.
Yes, thank you. That's it.
And I know for he had the most rushing touchdowns by a wide receiver in a season in NFL history.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was just sort of like a flex player. You could throw the ball to him, he's going to catch touchdowns. And then James Conner, for the first 3 weeks this season, he sort of sat behind Chase Edmonds. Going back to our fantasy league, I traded for him in a trade. He was just kind of like a throw-in player. And he sat on my bench 4 weeks, and all of a sudden I just started seeing it was a touchdown machine. He scored a touchdown a week, so I threw him in. And then once Chase Edmonds started to come back, I sort of took the value on him and traded him away, which ended up helping me.
Because he got hurt.
He got hurt, and I got Brandon Cooks in the deal, and Brandon Cooks really had a good connection with Davis Mills there for a bit. But James Conner had 220 total fantasy points, 14.7 average. He was the 5th running back, and he was being drafted as the 35th running back. So he jumped 30 spots in that. He was really the only person I could find where he was drafted in. I found that really hard to find. But the fact that he just jumped up 30 spots from where he was being drafted in most fantasy leagues just shows that he was obviously a very good surprise, and him and Deebo share my surprise player of the year.
My waiver wire player of the year, which is one of Noah's waiver wire ads, so he
I had a lot of good ones this year.
He had a good
not gonna
one.
lie.
Is especially during playoff time was Rashad Penny. He definitely, I don't want to say carry, but he definitely helped Noah win some matchups.
Definitely. He almost helped me win the playoffs, the championship.
He almost won the championship against me. I just kept seeing, I had the percentage was like 90 in my favor, and it kept getting lower because I just checked every 5. Rashad Penny, a touchdown. Rashad Penny, another touchdown. He was ridiculous in the final week, and the whole fantasy playoffs, he was ridiculous. But even the weeks before that, once they started giving him run towards the end of the season, he was phenomenal, and he helped Noah get into the playoffs and get really far into it. So Rashad Penny's my guy.
I'm going with the guy that was more, not really. He was like first 2 weeks didn't do much, and all of a sudden he sort of broke out. Being Cordell Patterson, which was another one of my waiver wire. I had a couple good ones this year.
Yeah.
The reason that I picked Cordell over someone like Rashad Penny, or even if we were saying like a playoff MVP, I'd definitely give it to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
He was good for me as well, yeah.
Who I traded to B-Ball earlier in the year, so he kind of had a revenge game against me. But I picked Cordero. In our league, he went undrafted, obviously, since he's the waiver wire player of the year. But he ended up as the 12th running back with a 182.6 fantasy points, 11.4 average. He was really, again, kind of like a Deebo Samuel type player. He would hand the ball out. He was more of a running back than a receiver, where Deebo was more of a receiver. But he caught a lot of touchdowns, and he kind of like the vital point of that Falcons offense. And being a Falcons fan, I watched a lot of their games. Not having Calvin Ridley, he sort of like became that main piece, him and Kyle Pitts, of the Falcons offense. So whenever like the Falcons needed a big play, they would give the ball to Patterson. He would get them a first down, if not more. He kind of came out of nowhere. Being 30, he was always known as a return man. Now all of a sudden he had a breakout year at the age of 30, and I'm hoping that he can continue doing that for a couple more years. Hopefully the Falcons can sneak into the playoffs in a couple of years, make it exciting for me. But yeah, he definitely showed why he deserved to get a big role in that Falcons offense.
Yeah, and keeping with the Falcons, I'm going to go biggest bust of the year. I was thinking Calvin Ridley just because he left and he was drafted so high. But again, he wasn't really a bust because he just didn't play. So I stuck away from that, and I went to an ex-Atlanta Falcon. I went Julio Jones. He also missed like half the season, but still he played half the season. He was drafted in the 5th round in our Dynasty League, even though he's getting up there in age. So I'm sure he was drafted higher. Braden picked him, yeah. So I'm sure he was drafted higher in just single season fantasy leagues. But Julio Jones, he was not the Julio Jones we're used to. I think he scored 1 touchdown in the final game of the season. It was the only touchdown of the season.
He's never been a touchdown guy though.
No, but
not even in Atlanta.
But the targets just weren't there. It was so weird. He didn't really perform in fantasy, and going so high, he's got to be my bust of the year.
My bust of the year is the number 1 pick, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, he was upset.
Even
another one of Braden's picks.
Another one of Braden's picks. Braden
finished third though.
He finished third, but he had a couple bad trades and a couple bad picks. Somehow he rounded it out though.
He snuck in.
He was the average number 1 pick in all fantasy drafts on all apps. He only played in 7 games due to injury. He was the 44th running back. Only had 90.5 fantasy points total. And I just found it's a funny stat. He would still rank as the 28th best kicker for fantasy points of the year. So there's 27 more kickers that scored more points than this year. Going first overall after last year and just being hurt. He really kind of got screwed over for having the first overall pick there. Even if you could also put a guy like Derrick Henry in here for the bust too. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't a bust up to week 8, but if you had him for the rest of the year, you're kind of screwed.
Your playoffs.
But yeah, coming in as the first overall pick and only playing 7 games, getting 90.5 fantasy points. It's a pretty big bust.
I do feel bad for people in fantasy leagues who had a top 5 pick because most of them didn't really pan out. You had CMC. Derrick Henry. I know a couple people chose Aaron Jones in there who started to lose his spot at the end of the season. And like people who chose Saquon,
Oh yeah.
top end running backs didn't work out
Zeke.
too well this year.
Zeke.
Zeke didn't work out well.
Dalvin Cook was hurt for a
Dalvin
bit.
Cook was hurt there. I mean, the best. I don't know who would be the best.
Jonathan
top
Taylor.
end. Jonathan Taylor, yeah, was probably.
I don't even know who would be next. I'm gonna search this up while you keep talking.
Okay, so now that we're through that, we just wanted to get our fantasy out of the way. We're gonna move to our NFL playoff predictions. I feel like it's the first round of the playoffs, so normally
Wild card weekend.
super wild card weekend.
Okay. Before you start,
yeah.
These are the top 10 running backs for the fantasy. Jonathan Taylor 1, obviously. Eckler 2.
Eckler.
Mixon 3. Najee 4. James Conner 5. Zeke was still 6. Chubb 7. Damian Harris 8. Kamara 9. Gibson 10. Fournette, Patterson, Jones. Henry still 14th. Dalvin Cook's 15th. I could say Dalvin Cook's a bit of a bust.
Yeah, you've only played 13 games. You know, if you're drafting Dalvin Cook, you're not getting a full season.
No,
He's never won for a full
Saquon
season.
34.
Yeah, that's not good. And he played 14 games.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. even Clyde at 38 is a bit of a bust. He's getting taken high. Anybody else in here big?
Not really.
No, we're starting to get into the depth, guys. Okay.
The deaf guys.
But yeah, it was kind of like a wide open to start. Like not a lot of top picks except for maybe Eckler, Mixon. You could say, even though I hate Mixon for fantasy, except for this year, of course.
Yeah, he was great for me.
Yeah, really. But yeah, it was really wide open for fantasy this year.
Yes. So
it was. Oh, we were talking about this. It was that one year where you didn't know.
Yeah.
It was so like back and forth what players were doing. Like,
fantasy was strange.
it was so like unpredictable this year.
So many top end guys.
Just doing nothing.
Yeah, had some off weeks. Like, I mean, even people like Devontae Adams had 2 or 3 off weeks. It's just a lot of top end guys did not have a consistent full season like normal. But hey, that makes it more interesting. You get guys like Rashad Penny and Amon-Ra St. Brown carrying you to a championship.
Yeah, really.
Okay, so we're going to move on to real NFL talk again to close it out. We're going to go to our round 1 playoff predictions. We got games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, which normally doesn't happen, but hey, super wild card weekend, here we come. Are these in order?
No.
No? I think this one is actually the first game
Did I
on
put it
Saturday.
kind of in order? Who plays Monday night?
The Cardinals Rams.
Hey,
you're close.
Hey, I'm close. I got.
No. So I think Bengals is the first game and Bills is the second game on Saturday.
Okay.
But you had the first one.
I have the first and last one. Right?
Yeah. So I think the Raiders and Bengals are the first game on Saturday. I think this game is going to be close. I don't know if that's the consensus or not, but coming off a big win. I guess both teams came off a big win. I don't count last week against the Browns for the Bengals because none of them played. The last time the Bengals played, they beat Kansas City, obviously. And then, obviously, the Raiders beating the Chargers on the game-winning field goal.
You could say that was the best game of the year. I would put it up there.
It's up there for sure. I thought they were going to take a knee, not going to lie.
I wanted them to.
But yeah, it made it interesting. Dan Carson hitting the game-winning field goal. So like I said, I think it's going to be a close one. Neither team has really any playoff experience. You can't really weigh that on anything. So I'm just going to go with the home team because when in doubt, pick the home team. I think the Bengals fans are going to be excited for a playoff game. It's been a while. I think the crowd's going to be insane. It's going to be filled with orange, and I think the Raiders are going to have a hard time overcoming that.
We should have got Mark on the pod for this.
Yeah,
one.
really.
If
they win, we'll get
our
Mark
buddy
on
Mark.
it.
So yeah, if they win, we'll bring him in next time. But yeah, I'm gonna join B with the Bengals. If we were going like position for position, I'd take Burrow, Mixon, Chase, Higgins, Boyd. You know, the only really position I'd take the Raiders' favor would be tight end and Waller. I think the Bengals are a better team. Obviously, they won their division. The Raiders barely just snuck in. I've always really thought the Raiders are like a 500 team. They're not that good. They're not that bad. I don't really find Derek Carr as good as he really is. Their defense, Max Crosby and Ngakoue has been really good this year. But then at the same time, the Bengals defense has been very good too. But like Brandon said, I think it's going to come down to home field advantage, which the Bengals have. So I have the Bengals winning their first playoff game in a while.
Do you think it's going to be close?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be close. I think the Raiders defense will keep them in it.
Moving on to a game that I do not think will be close. Is the Philadelphia Eagles versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think there's going to be many Eagles supporters except for people that cheer for the Eagles, betting on the Eagles for this game. The Bucs, just like Noah was talking about positional wise, have them in every single position you can think of, except for I guess
tight end would be iffy.
Yeah, Gronk's a monster in the playoffs, so I
that's fair.
Never go against Gronk in the playoffs.
That's very fair.
I mean, I guess the only wild card is Hurts, obviously, with his running ability. Fournette, I think, is hurt.
I think he's hurt. Yes.
Actually, I think he might be back. He might be back this week. I don't know. Well, you search that out. Hurts is the only.
He returned to practice yesterday.
Did he? Okay, so he's probably going to be back then. Like I said, Hurts is maybe the only wild card, and maybe the only reason why the game might not get out of hand is because his running ability is one of a kind. He can do a lot of things with his legs when his receivers aren't doing a whole lot. Their running game has just been decimated with injuries all season long.
I think Miles Sanders should be back.
Is he back? Either way,
he should be.
He just seems to come back and get hurt.
Yeah,
again.
He should be back.
I'm picking the Bucs anyways.
Yeah, me too. I don't think it's gonna be close.
No.
I think the Eagles are obviously a shock to make it. I don't think anybody really had them making the playoffs, especially in that division. I think a lot of people had Washington and Dallas over them. You could have argued the Giants at the start of the year, even though the Giants were a bit of a dumpster fire. But just the fact that the Eagles getting into the playoffs, I think it's a good step in the right direction for them. I heard that they don't really think that Jalen Hurts is their franchise quarterback, where I completely think he is. I think him and Devontae Smith's connection will be there for years to come. And then you also have a young running back who I think if they really give the ball to more, Miles Sanders being, hopefully they keep giving him the ball fantasy-wise for me too.
I hope they lose him. I think Kenneth Gainwell to step up.
I think that they have a great future, but we're not talking about future, we're talking about this game, and I think the Tom Brady Bucs are going to smoke them.
And continuing along the path of games that probably won't be close is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure most of you have heard about Big Ben's statement. It was pretty funny. Basically saying they probably shouldn't be here. If you rank the 14 playoff teams, they're probably ranked 14th. So he said they're just going to go out there and have some fun. In saying that, though, I do think Kansas City's offense still isn't to where they were last year. I think they're still missing something. I don't know what it is, but they just don't seem to be there yet. And the Steelers obviously have a good defense, so this could be a low-scoring game, actually. But Big Ben and the Steelers just cannot find ways to put up points, so I think the Chiefs will take this one.
I'm going Chiefs as well, but the one thing I think will change this game is the Chiefs' offensive line. Obviously, they revamped their whole offensive line. Like I said, they had Creed Humphrey. They traded for Orlando Brown. They brought in Joe Thuney from the Pats. They have a rookie starting right tackle, and I forget who their other guard is. I don't remember his name.
You're not going to get it from me.
No. But it's going to be very interesting to see how well they are able to block TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. Like Brandon said, the Steelers have a very good defense and a very boring offense. I think it's another hot take. I think the Steelers are a Super Bowl contending team if they get a quarterback.
Oh, for sure. Their offense is so good.
Unfortunately for Big Ben, it looks like his time's coming to the end. He had a really interesting press conference yesterday where he said that they have absolutely no chance, and that they should just go out there and have fun. I don't know how his teammates really took that. But yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs in this game.
Now moving on to the Patriots and the Bills. I flip a coin. I'm gonna pick the Bills just because they're at home, and like I said, when in doubt, pick the team at home. I think if this is in was it Gillette Stadium?
Foxborough. It's called Gillette, but it's in Foxborough.
I think the Patriots win it. I think this could go either way. I'm gonna go with the Bills just because I like their quarterback better to make big plays. I know you're not gonna get a mistake out of oh my God, Mac Jones, but you could get mistakes out of Josh Allen. But I'm still gonna go with the big play potential in the Bills. The only way I see the Patriots winning this one is if they do what they did in the other two games against the Bills and just run the ball down their throats. But it being in Buffalo, you can't stop Bills Mafia.
I think this is the first time we're going to disagree.
There we go. I
segment.
like it. I like the Patriots.
I am going with the Patriots. Evan Menard, I'm not going to say it, but I'll give you this. F you, go Pats all day. This was more a gut pick. I don't really have any.
I like it.
I don't really have any points as to why I think the Patriots are better. I think the Bills are a better team. I think, like I said, if you go down position for position, I think the only place you can really say the Patriots have you is at tight end and at running back. Other than that, maybe defense, even though the Bills have a pretty good defense. I think the Bills will come prepared with the run defense because they got smoked that one boring game where Mac Jones only had 2 pass attempts and just ran the ball right down their throats. So hopefully, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, gut pick, but I'm going Patriots.
I like it. It's very possible. 49ers and Cowboys, our next game, and I'm going to go with the upset, even though by the time betting-wise things
Guess
come in.
what, Noah?
What's that?
They gave me an offer.
Carlton?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So I'll talk to you later, brother.
That's sweet. When betting purposes come down to it, I actually think the 40... Yeah.
Because that's what we talk about. People loves to bet.
No, but when the betting line comes out, I honestly think the 49ers will be favored in this game.
Are they home? No, they're
No,
not.
the Cowboys are home. I still think 49ers are going to be favored in this game. It seems I don't think any team wants a part of the 49ers. And unfortunately for the Cowboys, they're the ones getting it. I think the 49ers win this game. Like I said in my bold take, I think they're the best team in their division. And they're a dark horse for me. I got them beating the Cowboys.
I think I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm not a Cowboys fan. I was going through this today after my classes. My dad sitting beside me, and I told him who he thought he won, and me and him disagreed for every single one except for Chiefs.
Really?
Except for Chiefs, Bengals, and Bucks. He had the Bills, he had the Cowboys, and then we'll talk about the one after. But he had Cowboys. He didn't have anything. I just asked him right on the spot. I just have to go against my dad. You know, I never bet with my dad. I think the 49ers have a better defense. Like I said, they have cornerbacks, they have edge rushers, they have linebackers. They just have a very good defense. I think they'll give Dak hell. I think the Cowboys' offensive line is a bit banged up right now still. I don't know who exactly they're missing. They might be missing Tyron Smith and people like that. And the run game has been very, like Bram said, if they don't get over 100 yards, they don't win the game. So with the defense like that, with people like who's that one? Not Nick Bosa. They have another big guy on the D line.
I'm terrible with D linemen.
It's gonna hurt me.
You searched it up. We know you're taking the 49ers. Moving on to our last game of the wildcard weekend, we have the Cardinals and the Rams. I really wish the Cardinals were a little more healthy on the offensive side because, honestly, I think both teams are healthy at this current moment. I'm taking
Eric Armstead.
There you go.
Dang.
I'm taking the Cardinals if they're healthy. Lately, the Rams and Matt Stafford, although he's been great, they're just making too many mistakes. You're like getting a pick. It seems like you're getting a pick 6 from Matt Stafford almost every game nowadays. But that wide receiver core is just a little bit too hurt for my liking on the Cardinals. So I'm going to take the Rams in this one. They're also at home, which is a big boost. I know the game, that division was really close. The Rams ended up taking it. I'm going to go Rams just for the fact that you don't have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's still out.
I think he's close.
Is he close? If D-Hop's back, I honestly want to pick the Cardinals so bad.
Not available for wildcard.
If he was there, I think I pick Cardinals.
JJ Watt status up in the air.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. They're just a little too injured. If both teams are healthy at this current moment, I'm picking Cardinals, but they're not, so I'm going Rams.
We're only disagreeing on one.
That's all right.
I'm going Rams as well. I think their offense is better, and at this current moment, I think their defense is better. Having Von Miller and Aaron Donald off the edge coming at you both ways, there's no way you have 2 tackles that are able to put up with them. And then having someone like Jalen Ramsey covering, even if DeAndre Hopkins, who isn't playing, they have Christian Kirk getting locked down. Then you have
Elijah Moore, Zach Ertz.
Yeah. Who's the linebacker for
For who?
Rams.
The Rams?
I
Man,
don't
I'm,
think I
I'm
know.
terrible with
I don't
defense.
think I know.
I'm terrible with defense.
But yeah, I gotta go Rams. Yeah.
Boring.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're very boring.
I think a lot of our picks are pretty consensual around the world. I mean, that's kind of like what happens with first round matchups. There's always a favorite. I think there might be a little more. I think there might be some differences when we get to round 2. So you'll have to stick around for that.
Stick around next week. So that's gonna wrap it up. Bit of a short one this week, but there's only 2 of us, so we didn't have Braden's stupid opinions in this time.
You probably would have taken Philadelphia.
You probably would have taken Philly. You probably would have taken every team we didn't take.
Pittsburgh, baby.
That's gonna wrap it up. Next week we'll be back with week 2. We might talk a bit about hockey, a bit about NBA. We'll kind of have to figure out, see if anything's going on there.
We're definitely gonna be back though.
Definitely be back next week. So yeah, we'll see you next week. Make sure you follow our Instagram.
Oh, for sure.
TikTok. We'll get back on our TikTok grind.
TikTok.
In the description later.
Peace out.
Oh.
5 minutes ain't bad.